All right, you're looking at our next project. I call these whimsical birds. Whimsical meaning funny. So he's kind of kooky looking, right? Very fun to make. And he's made mostly of clay. We're going to add some wires and beads to make these funny legs. And then you can add things to the head, feathers, wires, beads for the head. And so let me show you how to make one. We're going to start with a ball of clay that is about the size of an orange, a small orange, a large tangerine. All right? And what we want to do is make a little pot. So this guy is just a little hollow pot turned upside down, right? So if we had him this way, you see it's a little vessel. But we make the pot and then we turn it and we stand it on its rim, and that becomes the bird's body. So to make this, what you want to do is drill your finger down into the clay, and it's using the pinch method. And it's done very slowly and carefully. We're not pinching very hard. This hand is just turning the ball of clay, and the right hand is doing all the pinching. But look how slowly. And I'm not just going to push it through. I'm actually going to slowly drill this thumb down inside. Now, some people think that means drilling like this, but actually you need your fingers on the other side so that you can pinch and turn, and pinch a little and turn, and pinch a little and turn. And I'm being very careful not to make a lot of dents in the ball, but just pinch it gently, very gently. I'm using a lot of my fingers here to make sure that I don't use the tips and make big dents. Just using my hands. See, I'm about halfway down, maybe a little more, pinching and turning. And as long as you pinch a little tiny bit at a time and you keep turning the ball, you'll have a nice round opening here. And that's what we're going for. Pinch and turn, pinch and turn. How do you know when to stop? You begin to feel the pressure of your thumb inside across from your fingers. And that's fine. That's when you want to not pinch any deeper. So now he's big and thick. Like this is going to blow up. Anything that's this thick when put into a kiln can explode. It's just too much clay to expand and contract in the heat. So we're going to continue to pinch in a circle, but now I'm moving this way and going to go around in a ring. So this is thin enough, so I've just moved up a tiny bit toward the opening, and round I go. Okay, so now this much is the right thickness, so now I'm going to move back a little more. So you can see I'm not pinching the bottom anymore. I'm beginning to move up the side. Look how much of my finger I'm using to make sure I don't make dents. If you use the fingertips, you're going to make dents. We want a nice smooth bird body. Okay, this is what I have so far. He's still really heavy. This is still really thick. Okay, let's move up a little more. And now I'll speed things up a little bit for you. You get the idea. I'm going to move up a little more. This is just turning the pot for me. Okay, I still have a thick rim, but look, it's getting much wider. It's getting deeper. The hole is deeper. Now I'm going to come up a little more. Okay, now I seem to have a crack here. What do? Well, you take a little drop of water and rub that in. And I'm talking about a drop, like don't go crazy adding, there's a little one there too. Don't add a lot of water. If you add too much water, your piece will turn to mud. So I'm adding a tiny bit of water to some of these cracks. And he's almost finished. The body's almost done. Look how wide it is now. Right, and how deep. And I'm just going to finish this very last bit. Okay, so do you see it's a little floppy? So we don't want that to, we don't want it to collapse. I'm gonna put it on its edge. And just to be sure, I'm gonna take some paper towel and I'm gonna, this is called an armature. This is when you put some kind of structure inside a sculpture to give it strength. You don't want it to be too tight. See how fluffy I'm making this? Just enough so that it fills. There we go. And now he's gonna be able to, he won't smush anymore because I've got that structure in him. Okay, there's the body. So let's look at what we need. We've got the basic body, here it is. We need wings, we need a beak, we need eyes, and then we need some holes and some texture, right? So that we can, oh, and there's my initials on the back so that you're sure to know it's yours. Okay, so let's make the beak. Taking another little piece of clay, I'm gonna put this guy aside. And I'm gonna make another tiny little pinch pot. This is too much clay though. We really need a small amount. I'm gonna make a ball. Okay, so we just made a big pinch pot. We're gonna make a teeny one. Basically, I want you to wrap the clay kind of around your thumb. We don't want a big wide thing. We want a skinny, narrow, protruding beak. But it needs to be hollow. If we had a piece of clay like this and we just solid and we just stuck it on our sculpture, this is too thick. Anything thicker than your thumb can explode in the kiln. There's moisture inside the clay. Even when you think you've dried it enough, there's still H2O in the makeup of clay. And if you heat it up really quickly or you heat it up and the clay is thick, it explodes. And so a lot of kids go, oh, cool, but it's really not cool because your project's ruined. And often if your piece explodes, it ruins the piece next to it. So we have to make the beak hollow. So I've kind of covered my thumb and then pinched a little more. That's a pretty big beak. So I think I'll trim it. So I'm gonna take a knife. Here's a fettling knife. We have these in the studio. And I think I'm gonna set it down. I'm gonna go in a little bit from the bottom. Notice I'm turning the piece of clay instead of moving my knife around, instead of like trying to do this, which is really awkward. I just turned it. Okay, I like how flat that edge is now. That's gonna attach really nicely to my bird body. And guys, you can make, this is the kind of beak I put in this guy. But let me show you, let's make this a hooked beak. We can make it a little differently. So I'm just pulling out the end of it. Put my thumb in there to make sure it doesn't. Yeah, so now he can have a hooked beak. That would be kind of fun. You could also make it a skinnier beak. If I wanted to make this a little skinnier, I could take a little pie wedge out of this little pot that I made. And when I push it together, it gets skinnier. It also gives me a nice line, almost like, where the beak parts open, the top and the bottom of the beak. So I've got that already. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna emphasize that line. I'm gonna bend this so that when it closes, it looks like a real beak. So I just bent this part in. Well, so I need to do it on the other side, don't I? Okay, I'm gonna take a little tiny pie wedge out. There we go. And then I'm gonna bend this side and bend this side, and then when I put them together, and I do need to extend that line. See, it only goes to here. So I'm gonna use a needle tool. That's a dirty needle tool, hold on. Oh, I see, it's got glue on it. Okay, and I'm going to extend that line. Oops, extend that line here. So it looks like this beak does. Oh, you know what I'm going to do, guys? Wait. I'm going to make it look like the top of the beak so that it looks like his beak opens from below the hook. And you can make any kind of a beak you want. Now I got to clean up, it's a little messy. Clean it up. So it looks like two beaks, the top and the bottom, but I made it all out of one. Okay, now I'm going to score and slurry that on top. So the way we do that is we take a needle tool and you're going to, this is called scoring. You're basically making little hatch lines right in the clay. You're roughening up the clay. I'm also going to see where it's going, show myself, make a little, use it as a stencil and make a little outline. And now I see where I need to score here. So I'm going to score this whole thing. So you want to make it rough, and then you also want to make it sticky. So I'm going into this stuff. This is called slurry. Slurry is just watered down clay, and it acts like a little cement or glue when you're putting pieces together. Okay, so now I'm going to stick that right on there. Here we go. Yeah, that looks good. Make sure it's on, give it a little twist and a little bit of pressure. And then I'm going to just clean up around with my hand. And now I have a beak. So his beak looks a little crooked. I'm going to twist him this way. That's better. Okay, there he is. Okay, so this is what we're going for. So it looks like I need to make a little breast area here, the front, the chest of the bird, and I need to add eyes to the back. So I'm going to use, I don't suggest a needle tool for this. I think you should use a wooden tool. Needle tools tend to rip the clay. That's why I like to use them for scoring and slurring. But when I'm doing designs, I like something a little, actually, you know, my favorite tool is a good old pencil because it makes a thicker line. Okay, pick that up and make the same kind of curved line on the other side. Okay, there's his little chest area. And then let's make eyes. Okay, going back to my extra clay. So these eyes are big. I like that they're big. They're easy to see. How do you make those? Well, take a piece of clay and roll it into a ball, and then roll that ball into a log. You end up with something like that. Looks like a Tootsie Roll. And then you're going to set that log down, find the center, and cut it in half. And the reason you do that is you want the eyes to be similar, right? Eyes were usually symmetrical on either side, mammals and animals. And then I'm going to roll it into a ball and flatten it. Roll it into a ball. You can flatten it in your hand. You can flatten it on the table. Okay, then I have big crazy eyes. I like that. All right, now you might say to yourself, oh, those are sticking, so I'm good. But actually when they dried, they would fall right off. So whenever you add clay to another piece of clay, you have to do that scoring and slurrying. So I'm going to show myself where. I'm just going to mark it a little bit. That shows me where I need to, oh yeah, right in here. That shows me right where to scratch. And then I'm going to scratch this, because that's going to go there. And I'm going to scratch this, because that's going to go there. And then I'm going to scratch a little bit in between so they can connect to each other. All right. And then I'm going to go in for a little slurry. Put a little slurry here. I'm going to put a touch right there, just a touch. And now we're ready to connect. Where's the, yeah, perfect. Okay. There we are. Now I've seen a little cracking, so I'm gonna smooth some of that cracking out. All right. And if you need to, you can take a little sponge to clean up any extra slurry that might be coming out the back. If it oozes, that's good. That means you've used enough. If it doesn't ooze, then you may have your pieces falling off. Okay, so he looks more awake than this guy, and that's because he doesn't have pupils. And I'm going to use the end of a pencil. There we go. I'm going to make him a little cross-eyed, because I think that makes him look kookier. These are whimsical, remember? We want whimsical birds. All right, that's looking great. Now, I don't have them on this one, but I think I might add little tiny eyebrows. Now, birds don't have eyebrows, but we are in the land of art, and we can do whatever we want with our sculptures. And so I'm making these two little coils. Let me do that again and explain it. So I'm going to take a little piece of clay. I'm actually going to wet the palm of my hand a little. And then I'm gonna roll, it's a little too wet, there we go. And then I'm gonna roll a little coil between my finger and my palm. Got a little coil now. I'm gonna break that in half. Okay, and then I can add eyebrows. And one reason I'm doing that is that it'll change the expression on the bird. So if you go like this, he looks kind of sad. But if you go like this, then he starts looking kind of angry. So you can make an angry bird, just like the game. You could also be kind of neutral. You also can have one down and one straight across. If you arch them, he would look really surprised. Okay, so I think I'll make him an angry bird. I know they're whimsical, but I just think I think that's fun. So, you know what's next. Let's make sure those are gonna stick. Adding slurry, sticking it on, scratching this, add some slurry, and stick it on. Okay, now I have an angry bird. Cleaning up the little bit that shows. Cool. Okay, wings. We're going to take a piece of clay just like we did before. I think I need a little more because those wings are pretty big. And by the way, you don't have to make big wings. You can make small wings. I'm dipping into some water because I've used this clay before. And I'm just adding a little moisture to it so it doesn't crack. I'm gonna roll it into a little ball. And then I'm gonna roll the ball into a log. And I bet you can guess why. Wings are symmetrical. So I need a log that I can cut in half. So let's cut that in half. And then between my two palms, I'm gonna flatten this. The other one. Okay, and then you can shape it. I think I'm gonna have a little point. So I'm pulling this end out to make a little point. And I see a point here, so I'll pull this end out. All right, now I've got two wings. I'm gonna add them to the bird like so. You could have them up in the air, like he's flying. You can have them down to his sides, a little more like penguins. You can have him waving. Have one up, the other one down. Your choice. I think I'm going to. This guy I sent them sort of back. This one I'm going to put them down. I might even have him. No, I think I'll just have them like so. Yeah, that looks good. So I have my point on this one, and I didn't realize it, but this point was facing backwards. So I want that one to look like the other one. That looks great. Okay, you know, they will not stay unless you do this, unless you score and slurry them on. That's gonna go right about there. I'm almost done. This is a fun and easy lesson. And I love these things. I love when my students make them because they come out so great. Let's see. What did I do wrong? Oh, I think I scored the wrong side. That's a good thing to have happen, actually, because then I can show you what to do. No, these are correct. I did it right. I did it right. Okay, take this one off. Let's score this. Score back here. And I'm going to add some slurry. And I'm going to stick it on. Move this out of the way. There we go. Then I'm going to turn him to see. Oh yeah, see I've got some slurry coming out the back. And also you can see my scratch marks on there. Let's close that up. We're going for good craftsmanship, right? We don't want to slap it together. We want to do it so it looks good. Okay, so the last thing I think my guy needs is a little texture. I'm going to put texture on his chest. And I think this tool will do the job. So luckily I have that paper towel in there so that I can press and I won't collapse him. And I'm just using the point of this tool, and it's giving me a lovely feathery pattern. I do that all the way down. There we go. Okay, cool. I also think I'd like some lines on his wings. Also, I don't like how messy this looks. I'm gonna go in there with a tool. Clean this up. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah. Okay, wings. So I'm gonna use the pencil and I'm gonna drag. Notice I have the pencil lying down. If you take the pencil and pull it across, standing up, it'll rip. It'll create this ripped look. See the rips? It's all very ripped looking. But if you lay the pencil down, you get a smooth design. I'm going to show you on this side. I'll pick it up so you can see. Laying the pencil down instead of standing it straight up and pulling. Okay. And finally, I want to be able to put wire into his legs and some wire into his head. So I'm going to take a needle tool, and in the front of him, I'm going to go in, I think I'll follow it with the pencil. There we go. So let's set another circle here. Follow it with the pencil. There we go. And that's where the wires will go for the feet. And I think I'll put a few holes because then I'll be able to add feathers. So turning him around, I'm putting some holes behind his eyes. I think 3 will do it. And then I can put wire or feathers sticking up the back. See the wire and the feathers, yeah. Okay, you could also texture the body back here if you wanted to. It's totally your call. I think I'm pretty happy with him. Let's make birds.